Hey everybody, welcome to another Chalk Talk session. Today we're going to talk about part 2 of video editing. A while back I did a video where I talked with an expert, going to bring him here in just a moment, about some considerations when it came to video editing. A lot of people who've jumped into the live stream or new to maybe having to do some editing, and what does that look like when it comes to taking content you recorded in a live stream and then editing that, or maybe editing content that you're going to run as a simulated live stream. So, but first, welcome to those that are new to the channel. Welcome if you're coming back to the channel. Glad to have you with us, and I hope everybody is safe and well. I want to make sure that everybody remembers, please make sure to subscribe, okay? If you watch this video, it helps grow this channel. Love to have your support. Ring that bell to get notified when I launch a new video, like we're gonna do today. We're recording this and then we'll post it, as well as some other videos I've recently posted, as well as hit the like button if this video is helpful. And also give us 3 things, if you can, when you see this video, about what is helpful and what could be actually help you even further when it comes to this topic about when we talk about video editing. So we're going to jump here and we're going to bring in Nick here right now. Hey Nick, how you doing?
Doing well, John. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
I am doing okay, thank you. It's been an interesting year of 2020, as we all know, and we're coming towards the tail end of this year. And thank you for taking the time to come and do another session, talk about video editing and take what we've done. And so, when I say that, when I take what we've done is just to give everybody kind of a heads up. It gave Nick some content, different camera shots that we could just he could use to create kind of a multicam, or just use it for editing. And he's going to kind of step through that. Nick, maybe let's take a moment and reintroduce yourself to everybody, kind of your background and your focus.
Totally. Yeah. So my name is Nick Brosco. I'm a video editor, director, producer based out of Portland, Oregon. I work on digital content, everything from short form promos to documentary style non-scripted content. And yeah, I'm here today. We're going to do a demo of kind of recreating footage from maybe that you took from a live stream that you want to re-edit and repurpose for distribution on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and so a lot of times when we're live streaming, we do have different camera angles. We do take those elements and then we take that and put that in post. So it's kind of an area. So this is going to be a great example, and Nick's going to walk us through. Okay, well, let's jump into it. So I'll let Nick jump into this and let you get started on the process here.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. Yeah, so right here, what you're seeing is we have Adobe Premiere Pro. This is the nonlinear editing system we're going to use today. So what I'm going to do is recreate like what I would do for a multi-camera live stream re-edit. Maybe you did a live stream of an event and it's not going to work as well as content to be watched on demand. Maybe the live stream was a seminar and you had like some 10 or 20 minute long breaks where the participants were, going into like breakout huddles or something like that. And you don't want your on-demand viewers to like just be sitting there for 20 minutes having to fast forward through all that. So, you would want to cut that content out. Maybe you want to make it a more seamless viewing experience for your audience. Use it as an opportunity to do some editing, take content out, remove flubs, things of that nature. Maybe you want to just create teasers for social media with graphics and captions from the main content as a way to promote the overall larger tentpole piece of content. So this is a really great way to do that. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to edit in kind of a multi-camera environment, edit the content together, add in some graphics, some music, and then our different options for export. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I need to sync the content together. So what we have is we have 2 different pieces of footage that John so graciously shot for us. So we're kind of pretending that one is our A camera and The second one is a B camera. And this could be, we could have multiple different angles. We could have 16 different angles. But here, we're just going to have 2 different angles. And they have reference audio on them, but it's not the audio that we want to use. The audio we want to use is actually here. And so this was recorded separately with a microphone going into a separate audio recorder. No video element to this, just audio. And this is the final audio that we want to use. This is the high quality audio. So there's a couple different ways to sync this all together. One way I'm going to show you is using a third-party piece of software called Pluralize. Pluralize, what it does is it can sync together multiple audio and video clips together and then create a timeline out of that you can then export to your editing software. Pluralize works with Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro X, Avid Media Composer. It may even work with DaVinci Resolve. I'm not certain. Yeah, it actually does work with DaVinci Resolve.
That's cool.
So of course, we're going to use it with Premiere Pro today. So to start, all you have to do is just drag and drop your media files. So I'm going to drag and drop that audio file. And it starts analyzing the file to get the waveform. And ideally, you would want to work with sources that are all the same frame rate. This is super important. So if you are shooting a live stream and you're thinking of re-editing the footage later, you would want to make sure the frame rate is the same on all of your cameras. So whether that's 30 frames per second, 24 frames per second, as long as they're the same, that's going to give you the best experience. So I'm just going to add this footage in.
That's a good point. I mean, I think that's and especially in live streaming, we generally deal with 30 frames per second. Where and I mentioned this in another video, so I think that's a great point you made. Because I think sometimes people make the assumption that you can use different. One's 24, one's 30, and it just it doesn't work very well that way.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. Basically, what would happen if you had mixed frame rates is you're going to have to adjust one of the cameras to match the frame rate that you ultimately are working in. So you're either going to have to add frames to the 24 frame per second footage to get it to 30, or you have to take frames out of 30 to get it down to 24. And either way, it's not the best experience, and some of your footage is going to be affected. But luckily here, we are in, one piece of footage is 2997, the other is 30, but these are basically just variations of the same frame rate. It's super, super close, so we're not going to have any problem synchronizing this footage. And all you have to do in Pluralize is hit this giant synchronize button. And since Pluralize automatically analyzed all the footage, it kind of had that print for the audio waveforms, and it was instantly able to synchronize these clips. So now we're just going to click on Export Timeline. And you have a couple different options here. You could create a new video file with the audio replaced if you want. But since we're trying to maintain separate tracks so that we can edit, we're just going to export a timeline to as what's called an XML file, and we'll bring that into Premiere. So I'll show you how we're going to do that. So for our format, we want to do Premiere Pro. And we're going to choose where to save this XML file. It's basically just like a little tiny data file that creates a blueprint for how the timeline should be. And it's basically just pointing to our media files. It's not creating any new media files. So I will just put this in this documents folder. And because it's a very tiny data file, it's going to be a very quick export. So here we have it. I suppose I should have named it something better other than C00. But that's okay.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, it's a test, So now all you have to do is just drag and drop this XML file into Adobe Premiere. And it imports into Premiere the footage that we use to sync, but it also imports a sequence. So now if I open this synced sequence, you can see everything has been positioned so that it's all in sync here. So if I were to play through, I'm basically going to hear all of the audio tracks at one time. It's pretty loud because it's playing, let's see, how many tracks here? 16 tracks of audio all at the same time, but everything is in sync. So you can see here the top layer of video is in sync, and if I hide that layer, that's in sync as well. So now what we need to do is we need to create what's called a multi-camera sequence, which will allow us to cut between our two camera angles and also see both camera angles at the same time. So out of the synced sequence, I'm actually going to create a new nested sequence just by dragging and dropping the sequence onto the new sequence button. And this kind of creates a sequence within a sequence. Wow, that's like really hard to say. I've never realized that. And I'll just,
yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing what
I'll
you
just
find.
call
It's
this.
like, it's amazing when Nick's doing this right now and thinking through. There's sometimes when I record and you don't realize how you pronounce your pronunciation of certain words or what comes, and you're like, wow, I don't even understand what I'm saying. So, there you go.
Right. It's so true. I've never had to like talk this through before out loud.
This is awesome.
Okay, so basically, we've got the original synced sequence, and then we have our multi-camera edit. And if I right-click on this one video track, you can see it's now all in one video track. If I right-click this and go to multi-camera enable, this now enables it as a multi-camera clip. And if I click this button, toggle multi-camera view, what happens is if we go to a place in the clip where we have both cameras, we're going to see them simultaneously in sync. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so now what we have to do is we have to fix the audio. And just for the sake of time, I'm just going to basically copy and paste this video track into this sequence so I can still have access to the video file. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring over the audio tracks, just copy and paste them into my new sequence. And from here, I'm going to delete, these are the camera audio tracks that we don't want. We needed them to sync because we needed that reference point, but now we don't need them. So I'm just going to delete them from the sequence. So now what we have here, and I can make this full screen, is we have kind of like our quote unquote good audio, but I also probably don't need how many, like 15 or so tracks of this. So I'm just going to delete these tracks and just stay with these two and just pull these up. So now let's just make sure everything's still in sync. Looking and sounding good. So we have two cameras in sync. We also have our good audio in there, which is what we want. So now we can begin to edit. So I'm just going to go through this real quick and find where you start talking. Okay, so I want this clip to start right about here. I'm just going to set some in and out points and use a ripple edit command to trim that off. And now we'll just have our clip start right here where you start talking. Also, notice I want to start on this camera view because this is the camera you're looking at. I don't want to start here because you're not looking at the camera. So in this multi-camera view, you can actually map keyboard shortcuts to whatever key you want. But I like to map it just to the number keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can use the keyboard basically to switch between cameras. And you can also do this in real time as the clip plays back. So I'll show you how to do this. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm just going to hit spacebar to play the timeline down. And as the timeline's playing down, I'm going to switch between these cameras. So I'm basically like editing as if I were editing the live stream, like as if I were switching a live stream although I have the opportunity to edit. So I'll demonstrate. Cool. So now I hit spacebar to pause, and if I zoom out to the timeline, you'll see that it created an edit point every time I switched the camera. I could go back and do this again. I could manually just change which camera angle I took without having to play it down. And I can, of course, change the edit point. So, you know, here I think I changed the camera a little bit too late. You can see with the audio. So if I wanted to cut to this camera before you start talking, I can simply use the rolling edit tool and just pull this back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, you know, I would go through and completely fine tune the sequence, you know, to how I want it. You can edit out dead space. So if I wanted to just go from you talking here to you saying the next line, see how that looks.
Wow.
So you kind of get the idea here.
Yeah.
I'll just trim off the end really quick. So now we have a little edited clip. Pretty much it's that easy. So from here, the sky's the limit. I did create a little animated intro for you for your business, kind of using your logo from your website and your tagline. So let me play that down for you. This I did in Adobe After Effects, and then I pulled stock music from Envato Elements, which is a subscription-based stock image, photo, music, sound effect library.
Mm-hmm.
So take a look at this.
That's awesome. I like it.
Yeah, so just kind of taking your tagline and putting all that in there. So let's say you know, we wanted to open the video this way, like we wanted to brand your video. So that's really easy to do. I imported this element, it's just a QuickTime file into Premiere, and we can just add that in at the top. And you're seeing two screens because I have the multi-camera view on, but let me just take that off. And you know, if we wanted to add a transition going into the video, we could definitely do that. Let's see what we have here. Lights and blurs. We could do like a huge, let's see, do maybe like a light leak.
Yeah, sometimes those effects work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, there we go. I had to give it a second, or maybe a flare impact.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, and we can import. I think I had pulled a sound effect for this very moment here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I got some whooshes. Let's see what whoosh 1 sounds like. There we go. You can hear that's pretty dramatic whoosh. Might even slow the effect down a little bit.
That's cool.
It's pretty loud, so just drop that down. But you get the idea.
Yeah. And I think this kind of gives everybody kind of an example for those that are watching is, once you kind of get through this process and you get familiar, what Nick's walking through is it's really kind of the sky's the limit. I mean, you can start adding different effects. And so a lot of times, when I'm editing and we're taking things through, I'm just like, okay, well, I want this sound effect because I'm going to cut to a scene and do something a little bit different, maybe as part of the process. So this is great, Nick. This is really cool.
Yeah, and one last thing I wanted to show, I wanted to add a lower third in here and show just how easy this is to do in Premiere Pro. Typically in the past, I should say, if you wanted to do motion graphics, you needed to know a software like Adobe After Effects or Apple Motion. But now Adobe Premiere has what are called MoGart files or motion graphic template files that you can get. You can also create them if you know how to use After Effects. But there are plenty of preset websites like Envato Elements that you can download these presets from, and it lets you create motion graphics, simple motion graphics like lower thirds, right within Adobe Premiere. So you don't have to outsource it to another piece of software, and you don't really need any motion graphics experience to do this. So I'm going to open up the Essential Graphics panel in Premiere, and this is something that came out with several versions ago with many different types of title overlays. So I'm going to go ahead and add in this MoGart that I pulled.
And there's some stock images that Adobe provides in when you bring out that panel. And obviously, as you go to add other MoGart files and you add those in there, then you can create and you can structure how you want your listings to go. So it's kind of cool that Adobe did that.
Definitely. Yeah. And so as you can see, it just adds it into like a library here, which you can basically just treat like a clip. You can just drag and drop it right into your timeline and it will build this out. So let's take a look here. So I think this is a little bit larger than our footage. So all we have to do for that is set it to the frame size. You can just right click and do set to frame size. There we go. Now we got it scaled down. I think this is a 4K pack. And then from here, there's all these different customization options. So we can change color of the text, of the box, and of course, update our text here. So let's put your name. And it instantly updates. So like we don't have to do any rendering out at all. This is just updating in real time in our Adobe timeline, in our Premiere timeline. And we can just do a quick timeline render to play this back.
It's really cool. And for everybody to know is that when you do add those, I think Nick is like, I know you can on Final Cut, but with Premiere, I think you can just basically click on the lower third or the CG graphic that you've added in the file, and then you can move that around within the screen where you want it placed. So when it runs, it's scaled to where you would want it placed within the image.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, you can resize these, you can reposition these. You can also just copy and paste them in your timeline, duplicate them, and each instance of it in your timeline acts as a separate clip. So you could just, create one for yourself as podcast host. You could duplicate it for your guest and just change the text on that, and it will change. Super easy to use.
I'm so glad you said I was right, because if you said you're absolutely wrong, I think you're wrong. So no, I appreciate that. Sorry.
No worries. Sorry, this is taking a minute to render.
Right. That's okay. It's probably the caffeine kicking in. So everybody knows I am drinking Nespresso cold brew. So that's my favorite brand of cold brew coffee.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, sometimes these. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes these MoGarts take a little while to render, but I promise you, in the long run, it's a lot quicker than having to toggle into a program like After Effects. Rendering out a file, bringing it in, and then realizing you made a mistake and having to render again, that sort of thing. Keeps it all in one program.
And I think that, and Nick brings a good point. I mean, you can certainly go do things in After Effects, if you want to get really fancy and go do some other work. But, in terms of simplicity and time investment when you're editing, this is a lot easier to work with than trying to go do that. And the majority of the stuff, that I do, I pull from some various different templates, whether it's an Adobe or Final Cut, and then throw that in there, and I have it in the library. I can go back and then change the colors, do whatever I want to do. Because After Effects is another level, and you can do some really great stuff in it, but you got to really understand as you kind of master. I think this is easier as you're trying to, I think for everybody watching, if you're new and you're trying to understand this, is spend your time here first, make the investment of your effort to really understand this before you jump to the other. And doing that, Nick, would there be any resources that you've found from your perspective when it comes to going through the editing? I know there's several online platforms and different trainings, whether it's through LinkedIn or Udemy or one of the other ones out there that you've discovered from your experience that people could,
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No.
honestly, very passionate about this answer. YouTube. Like nowadays, there's so much information out there, specific to, you could probably go on YouTube and type in working with Mogart files in Adobe Premiere and get like 100 videos that would come up. I mean, there's just like so much information out there, from like full walkthroughs to sort of new feature tutorials. And of course, YouTube is free, so everyone has access to it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point. And in coupling that with the YouTube side of it, Adobe is making additional investments in terms of when you open up the latest edition with their latest update with Adobe Creative on the Creative Cloud set, of where they are providing some additional how-to videos now. I've seen it in Photoshop. I've got, in fact, I've figured out a few things, but generally I go to YouTube and, trying to figure out, and there's plenty of people out there that know a specific area and create a video, put it on YouTube, and you can kind of pretty much learn from that.
Absolutely. Well, shall we check this edit out?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go from the top.
Nice.
There you have it.
Very nice.
So that's pretty much a very basic workflow. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, like sky's the limit on this type of stuff. So you could go crazy with graphics, adding in a music bed underneath. But this is pretty much the basics of how we would do a multi-camera edit for a live stream.
And I think that's probably the key there, in terms of, is doing that. And for everybody to know that, there's several services that you can get royalty-free music. One of the new ones I've been testing out is Soundstripe. They've been fantastic. They also do videos. You can pay for the individual file, or you can get a subscription. Epidemic Music, which I'll put some links to them, is another service. Again, these are elements that I generally use, and a lot of other people like Nick and others in the industry will go and use that, because then we're not, bound by some of the additional licensing in terms of copyright protection and things like that. But obviously, if you had a larger project like Nick works on, larger, from a videographer, producer, and editor, and things that you're working on, you introduce different elements. So what we're trying to do is give an example. So people will ask, like, where do you get the music or whatever? Just check out Soundstripe. If you just search for that, Epidemic Music, or the ones that Nick has mentioned, and Motion Array is another one out there. And in fact, Motion Array is one of the popular ones. I've been using it for a while, where you can get the Mogart files and then get those templates that, like Nick was showing, and then along with other services, and plug those into Adobe or Final Cut. DaVinci Resolve, right? There's a lot of different ones. So as more people do this, so this is fantastic, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me back on here. I'm so glad I got to do a little edit along demonstration, and hopefully it's insightful for everyone to kind of see what goes on under the hood, and
Sure.
really just like how easy it is to kind of repurpose this content that you shot for your live stream. The possibilities really are endless.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And, for everybody who's watching, please leave us 3 things that you found useful in this video, and 3 things that you'd like to see that would be helpful in terms of what you may be working on. And that's an area where myself or Nick, the industry expert here, can add some input and value when it comes to this. And then we could probably do another future video that maybe dives into a specific topic of, today we talked about, kind of editing and putting a timeline together and adding the multi-camera type effective approach to that. So please let us know. And Nick, thank you for your time. I appreciate it once again. And it's been fantastic to have you go through this and all your efforts in putting this demo together as well. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So,
my pleasure. Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
So, hey everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like button if this video was useful. Don't forget to subscribe. And we look forward to talking to you, or I do, in the next session. Stay safe, stay well, take care.